So can I call the meeting to order now? All right. I'd like to welcome everybody to the meeting of the AAC this evening, January 12th. The meeting's to run from 6 to 7. And I'm just going to start off the meeting by reading the, sorry? I'm just going to start off the meeting by reading our electronic meetings policy. Can everyone hear me? Yeah, all right. So at the beginning of a board or committee meeting, the following statement will be read by the chair. This committee meeting is being live streamed and recorded. Any comments made during this meeting will form part of the public record. Public viewing of the meeting is also available in the SLRD boardroom in Pemberton. This meeting is being held virtually with some or all meeting participants attending via electronic or other communication facilities. Committee members will be involved in and participate in the meeting. Committee members will raise their hands to advise the chair they wish to speak. The chair will record the order in which the hands are raised and will allow the committee members to speak in the order in which they are recorded. If committee members are unable to raise their hands due to being in audio mode, they will verbally advise the chair of their intention to speak. All meeting attendees should remain muted when not speaking. With respect to a vote, committee members are only required to state a nay vote, i.e. members are not required to voice a yay vote. Committee members attending the meeting are required to verbally advise the chair or the staff liaison if they leave the meeting and when they return to the meeting so that this can be recorded in the minutes of the meeting. Committee members will email the staff liaison if they have a technical difficulty with their connection and need to be reconnected to the meeting. If a technical difficulty occurs resulting in the meeting not being projected on the wall display in the SLRD boardroom, the meeting will be recessed until the projection is reestablished. If a technical difficulty occurs and it becomes apparent that a committee member has become disconnected from the meeting and the meeting's quorum is not maintained, the meeting will be recessed until the committee member returns to the meeting. Committee members who are attending electronically and declare a conflict of interest in respect of an agenda item will be placed in the virtual waiting room by the staff liaison while the committee considers the agenda item. Committee members who are present within the virtual waiting room are asked to stay at their computer or otherwise remain present and connected to their computer so as not to miss their readmittance into the virtual meeting room following consideration of the agenda item. All right. Moving on to the agenda. Can I have someone approve the agenda? Make a motion to approve the agenda.
I think you have Simone's hand as raised.
Oh, okay, there, I see her. Thanks, Simone. And can someone second the motion? Do we have to have someone second it? Yes. And Elliot. Great. So then we need to approve the minutes from the previous meeting, which are included just below the agenda in the package that was sent. Did anyone have anything that needed to be changed from the last meeting minutes? Elliot, do you still have your hand raised, or is it, do you have something you need to say about the minutes?
No, I don't have my hand raised here, but I guess I'll lower it now. Okay, I got it.
Okay, thank you. All right, so if no one has anything to say about the minutes from the previous meeting, can we have someone make a motion to accept the minutes? All right, Simone. And can someone second the meeting? And Randy. Great. Moving on. I guess we can start with the review on the ALC Non-Farm Use Application number 64328 by SD48. I believe someone from the SLRD office is going to be presenting something to us.
Yes.
Anna?
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us. So today we're discussing an application by the Lillooet Nation, represented by Carrie Mahaffey. The application pertains to a proposed Indigenous Healing Treatment Cultural and Traditional Use Center on 3 adjacent lots in the Pemberton Meadows. The site has previously been under School District number 48 and used for the purposes of a Coast Mountain outdoor school, which is now permanently closed. There are a number of existing structures on the subject property currently, including general store, 7 log cabins, storage cellar, the schoolhouse, loft, work storage structure, farm classroom, and 2 chicken coops. The applicants are hoping to use as much of the existing infrastructure as would be feasible considering hazards and the status of associated building permits. The overall vision is to use the land as a healing and treatment facility that is self-sustaining with enhanced agriculture and land-based activities, which will include cultural and educational components. In the short term, the Lillooet Nation proposes to increase hay sales, utilize existing infrastructure for overnight accommodations and safe houses, build healing infrastructure, which I'm hoping the applicants can elaborate on, and demolish any unsafe buildings. In the long term, the plan is to continue cultural practice and education and to enhance food production and seasonal wild food harvesting. In regards to the soil quality on these sites, the agricultural capability is classified on a scale from 1 to 7, 1 being the best. Overall, the agricultural portion of the 3 lots is 60% class 2, 25% class 4, and 15% class 7. Previously, the landowner entered short-term agricultural usage agreements with local farmers, primarily for hay production and for foraging. At the moment, there are no such agreements in place, and the agricultural potential of the sites is underutilized. While there are overall 19 hectares of land located outside of the agricultural land reserve, the applicant indicates that relocating existing structures to that portion of the land would pose a considerable financial setback and result in a loss of natural forested areas. As far as the SLRD policies, the proposal may increase overall community awareness and support for agriculture through some of the educational activities, which is in line with one of the goals of the Pemberton Valley Agricultural Plan. And while the OCP suggests that non-farm uses should take place on land outside of the agricultural land reserve, the proposed use will take place primarily in existing infrastructure. So further loss in farmland is not anticipated. So that is a quick summary of the application, and I'm hoping to now open the floor to discussion.
Thank you, Anna. Can I just clarify what we're looking for from the members, the panelists? Are we looking for a motion to approve it, or are we like, what is the question we're answering with this meeting?
So we're hoping to get some feedback. Any thoughts on impacts to the agricultural land, and just the overall character of that neighborhood? That would be greatly appreciated. Alex?
Yeah, I'll just add to that. We are looking ultimately for a formal resolution or motion to be passed that could be brought forward to the board when they consider this application at their meeting on January 26th. So that would be a motion of either support or not support, basically, is what we're looking for to come out of this. And then that can be, sometimes it might be contingent on certain aspects of the application as well.
Okay, thank you, Alex. Oh, and Kim has something to say as well.
Yeah, thank you, Carrie. And just so that the committee is aware, the process is that this application, it's come to us through the ALC portal. And so, you know, the board is essentially going to get the AAC's recommendation. And the board will look at that information and they'll review the application themselves, and they will decide at their board meeting on January 26th whether or not they wish to refer this application to the ALC, at which point the ALC will then have the opportunity to make a decision as to how they'd like to proceed with this application. If the board of the SLRD decides that they don't wish to proceed, they can either forward it to the ALC with a recommendation to not support, or they could just not refer it at all, and at which point the application would go away. So but ultimately, we're looking for information that will give our board some thoughts from this committee as to how they feel about the agricultural side of this application.
Thank you, Kim. And just to clarify, what they're looking for is just to get a non-farm use designation for this.
Sorry, they would like to get a non-farm use approved for the non-farm uses that are part of this application. And you know, further on in the process, if the ALC is to support this application, and if they give it an approval, there will still be a rezoning required at the SLRD level. So this would be back before this group again in the future. If the Lillooet are successful with their application, they will need a rezoning from the SLRD to legitimize this as a use.
Okay. Thank you, Kim. All right, given all of that background information, do any of the panelists have anything that they would like to say as input? Questions? Randy, I see your hand up. Go ahead.
Yeah, I've managed to look through it as best I can. I'm not sure for me that it's clear enough on all the non-farm usage that's going on within the plots, the 3 or 4 plots that there are, specifically in those general areas of the plot in relativity to the farmland and the non-farmable land within the plots. Did you guys take a look at the detail? Is it clear enough for you guys as to where these activities are going to happen within the plots? It doesn't seem to be specific to me, but maybe I didn't read it well enough.
All right, thank you, Randy. Anna, did you have something to say to add to that?
Yeah, so at this point, it's a little bit general. And I'm hoping that Ati can answer to that. I believe he's currently in the waiting room or in the chat panel. I'm not sure how to let him speak to that.
Okay, so if we would like to ask him a question, we'll need to promote him from attendee to panelist. And then he will be able to answer our questions. Does anyone else have questions for Ati? I know I also had a question similar to Randy that I also felt like it wasn't particularly clear. Like, to me, everything looked like it was business as usual, except for the only place that I thought was a change was the necessary healing infrastructure, and it wasn't very clear what that was going to be. So maybe that's something that Ati can elaborate on when he comes on.
I've just promoted Adi to panelist, so we'll be able to speak shortly.
Thank you. All right, Adi, you have the floor. You can answer the questions. Thank you.
Okay, hello panel. Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for the invitation. I'm representing Chief Nelson and Carrie McCarthy, and also the school district. This is a very interesting and politically motivated project. We are talking about a huge opportunity for reconciliation for the Lillooet Nation. Obviously, we have lots of requirements to satisfy, and I understand for any rezoning, one of the first requirements would be to talk with the Agricultural Land Commission to ask for this non-agricultural use farm, I would call it map notation or approval. So the reason for that, I would say 90% of the site anyhow will remain into the agricultural usage, and the Lillooet is very interested in continuing as a community to use the land for agriculture, as very well said by Anna from SLRD. The site presently is underutilized and is sitting, the huge agriculture potential is sitting unused. It's a beautiful site for anyone who was there. The question is about the existing structures, and obviously we realize some of these structures need to be brought up to code, some might be demolished, but again, we cannot talk with the regional district unless these structures are somehow legitimized to be there, and for that the first requirement would be to obtain this non-agricultural use. So in conclusion, the agricultural activities will continue. The educational aspect also will continue with a twist of a First Nation cultural heritage, and then it comes in the healing center. And you probably heard about the word used, the safe house or the healing infrastructure. So I can go in details on that, but technically the older structures we would like to make obtain an approval that we can start talking to the regional district, if I understand correctly, to decide on zoning and requirements for how to bring these into up to the code, or if not, demolish them. So in a nutshell, it's a first step for us to be able to talk with the regional district. And my understanding, one of the lots had a non-agricultural use on it. For Randy's question, what exactly type of activities are going to happen on this site? Cultural healing. So basically, First Nation culture requires space to go away from the reserve. The safe house concept is actually when you have families with issues or problems, instead of staying on the reservation, this site is perfectly located at a distance that you can take out people, bring them to a neutral environment, and have this beautiful nature healing center. There are some cabins which could be reused with very little modification. It is a functioning schoolhouse, again, subject to approvals and zoning requirements to be used into gatherings and community events. So it's not 100% clear for the committee because we don't have a management plan, because that depends on the obtaining of this map notation from your committee and then going back to the regional district and obtaining some zoning and doing extra studies. So we cannot proceed to those unless we satisfy the Agricultural Land Commission's requirement for obtaining this notation, which would allow for non-agricultural usage. And as a conclusion, from the agriculture point of view, Lillooet intends to use the entire site, which is almost 100 hectares, for agriculture. And these notation, if I'm not mistaken, is 30 or 20-some hectares. Maybe Anna, you remember, or you can help me out. And technically, 90% of that also will be used for agriculture, but we are seeking to justify the existence or legitimize the existence of these existing structures there to use them for the usages I mentioned: cultural heritage, healing, safe house, and so on. But these are all dependent of what we can salvage, what we can obtain permitting, and what we can obtain from the regional district as the requirements for rezoning. So step number one is asking you kindly to consider, so we can proceed, go back to my understanding to the regional district, and eventually come back again as to have a final decision on the non-agricultural usage. So is that helpful?
Yeah, I think that that is helpful to me. Randy, does that answer your question?
Yeah, I think for the most part it does. You know, a management plan would certainly make things easier at this stage, but I mean, in the way that Addie describes it, I'm certainly in support of trying to use all of the existing structures in the existing land for better purposes. You know, just my concern is the farmland. When I read about, you know, certain amount of non-agricultural use out of these blocks, it's just, I'm uncertain as to how much of that is and what the outcome will be. A management plan would certainly be helpful, but it sounds like through the process, we'll have the ability to look at the management plan and make recommendations going down the line. Is that the way I understand it?
Yeah, you're totally right, Randy. I had a discussion today with Kim. We are very eager to go ahead and produce studies and documents and management plans, but my understanding is this is a huge step from your commission to let us go back to the regional board and have that green light so we can invest. We have draft management plans. We have a beautiful vision attached to the application. We supplied at least 14, 15 different documents, pictures, and one of them is the vision of Chief Nelson from the Lillooet Nation for the site. So these, if anyone has the full package of the attached documents, you can read up, or I can supply it as a separate entity. We started working on the management plan, and it's also another application which is quite high level with the First Nations health authority for an area which is outside of the agricultural land, and that would be part of a new sort of official healing center which would be used for the neighboring nations. So that is not of concern at this moment of the Agricultural Land Commission because it's outside. However, it will be something of discussion with the regional board for zoning once they obtain. And I have also that application available, and the entire package is just a wonderful opportunity for reconciliation for the nation. And it has many of the aspects which are mimicking almost what the school district was using it, like the agriculture aspect is one, but they have a farming ability, a schoolhouse for agricultural teachings, and ability to keep chickens and horses, but also there is the cultural aspect which First Nations will add to it, and the healing which requires nature, and it requires being out in the forest surrounding this area. And again, Anna well said that these structures could be relocated in outside of the Agricultural Land Commission's jurisdiction, because the lines are sort of cutting up like above its forest, and there would be a bit of a waste of money and the exercise. Also, we could use the Lillooet Nation could use the forest for forestry versus relocating buildings that are presently there. But Definitely, we have, Randy, plans. I'm almost done with the management plan, but we are a bit speeding ahead. I'm told to slow down and get these first step sorted out before we can apply for zoning and start making management plans. But we have enough information, and back again, the Chief Nelson's presentation gives a good vision of what Lillooet would like to have on the site.
Okay, thank you, Ati. Elliot, you have a question or something to say?
Yeah, I just have a question because I'm just looking at the map here on the document, and it's I just want to make sure I'm getting this right. It's the area that's highlighted in blue on Appendix A that you guys want to basically make non-agricultural areas, basically.
Yeah.
And the rest
Yeah, it doesn't sound, Elliot, as you know, the word non-agriculture sounds a little bit threatening, I guess, for this commission.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Yeah,
for sure. I'm fully in support of the whole aspect, and I think that's would be the most amazing thing to end up in the Pemberton Valley at that end as well, especially that piece of land. It's so beautiful in there, the maple forest, everything. It's incredible in there, and that place is amazing and magical. But yeah, I can see so it's basically that forested area where you guys want to kind of build the infrastructure into that zone there.
Yes, yeah, that was it's based. So the new center is based on the location of the new center is based on a study which Lillooet, with the help of, I'm representing Ministry of Indigenous Relations. Maybe I forgot to introduce myself to the committee, but we work together with the mental health and addiction. And technically, how we obtain this footprint of this blue area, as you mentioned, Elliot, is I'm sort of a closet mapper. I basically, with the help of Chief and the rest of Lillooet team, we put a polygon which contains the existing structures. So, and a little bit plus or minus left and right, and sort of drew some lines which are easy to locate on the field. So if you would zoom in on that map, you can see there are some well-known, easy to identify structures, like a little creek going down. So that's that's how we ended up with the polygon for this map notation. So it's when you are in the field, you want to get some orientation, obviously. Due to some concerns, I'm not going to go over, there are some concerns with the alluvial fan, and most of the structures might be relocated or rebuilt. So we want to leave a little bit of a buffer to be able to put them left and right on that land. But that, again, will be with the help of the regional districts when we get to that stage. And about the location of the new center, we commissioned jointly with Lillooet a geotechnical study to find an area which is with no restrictions, meaning no flooding, no alluvial fan, and no agriculture land commission requirements. So that is how we obtained that little square where the new center would be. Hope that answers your question.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you.
All right, Randy, you have a question or a statement?
Yeah, I was just wondering where it is in the process between the school board and the Lillooet Nation on the, is this a long-term lease, or how is the property transfer happening between the two parties?
Yeah, very good question.
What are the terms of that?
Yeah, so we got incredible support from day one from the school district. Literally on day one, they told us that they are very supportive to transfer or gift these lands to the Lillooet. So this is a huge step ahead. But they are working. The school district is working on our collective demand on an official green letter, which would be. We called it official green letter, like something which will state clearly we have a letter of support, but they will be issuing in a couple of days, I hope, at least in a week, an official support letter, which will be actually in form of an agreement between Lillooet and the school districts to cement this agreement of transfer. There are two fee simple lands, so that will have a process on its own. They are owned presently by Ministry of Education, so we got the support there. We have monthly meetings, sometimes even bi-weekly, and there is a crown land. So one of the east side of the plots 907 is actually a crown lease, and we started negotiations for an assignment of this lease involving the Minister of Forests and Lands and Natural Resources. But again, they will wait until we get an approval from your committee, so to legitimize the existing structures. Otherwise, they could do a transfer, but then technically those structures they would not transfer. Interestingly, the crown lease, if you have the map open, or for those who had looked at the map, the east lot had an old 1970 map notation from non-agricultural farm use, which we were told it's sort of not clear if it's still transferable or not, and we are not interested in including the lower part, which is agricultural. So we are mostly on that crown plot, looking at where the existing structures are, which are mostly forested. So technically it's very little or no agricultural potential is lost. We left the other side, the lower southeastern side of part of the plot, the crown lease plot, out of this application. But just for the committee's benefit, it is semi-active, or I don't know the status, but it's a 1970 some map notation for non-agricultural use for the crown land.
Yes, Randy, you have something else to say?
Yeah, so sorry, I'm just going to get back to the map. So you say the crown lease, that's in zone A, which is DL 907.
Yes,
that
907.
Big pasture. So
Yeah.
you say that the nation is not interested in pursuing that
No,
lease?
No, they are absolutely. Maybe I misinterpreted. So technically, it is an old non-agricultural use notation, or what the proper terminology is for that land. But I understand that's hard to transfer. So basically, we are ignoring that, and we are just applying for this new blue zone, which contains a little piece of all the three plots. But that crown lease is also part of the transfer, and that's the easiest to do relatively, because that is an assignment. If the present leaseholder, the school, would basically request, it would be relatively easy to transfer. However, to have the existing structures on, when you have a crown lease, when you transfer it, technically the structures, if they are not well documented, they have to be cleaned up and demolished and put aside. So why we are asking for that allowance for non-agricultural use, that they can keep the structures, I would say, legally or officially, again, subject to regional districts requirements later on if we get there. But so the map notation contains little parcels of all three lots, two of them fee simple, one of them crown lease.
Okay, thank you, Ati. Hopefully that answered your question, Randy.
Yeah, it did.
Good. Does any of the other panelists have any questions or comments they would like to make? I'm curious if Conley has anything to add to our discussion from the Ministry of Ag's perspective.
Sure. Yeah, I think it sounds great. As far as what I know here, it sounds like the infrastructure is going to be pretty much contained to where the existing infrastructure is, and yes. Yeah, and that I'm not actually clear where the new building is proposed to be. Is that on the map somewhere, or is it, or you're not sure yet?
I believe I might have put on one of the maps, as I mentioned, there are at least 14 different documents I attached. It's outside. If you look at the third, the northernly plot, it's outside of the Agricultural Land Commission's. It's between the road. I put a circle. I remember marking it, but it wouldn't be subject to Agricultural Land Commission's requirements. But it's just, it came out as a lucky spot, sweet spot after all these studies were done where there are no issues like flooding or alluvial fan or geotechnical issues and so on. So that's why it's in this outside land.
Yeah. So that's perfect. So that's not not even a concern here. So
not for this commission.
Yeah, it sounds like if anything that it'll be you know, utilizing the agricultural land better. So it sounds like there could even be an agricultural benefit to this. No real loss of agricultural land that I can see here. So yeah, I have no real concerns. This sounds great.
Thank you, Connolly. It is a commitment to use the land definitely better, because Lillooet Nation is a large nation. They have lots of youth, so they have the potential to try out all kinds of progressive agriculture practices. The existing structures are already there, like little chicken coops and the farmland and gates, and it would just lift it to some very interesting. And the location, I forgot who mentioned the location, who talked before. Like it's an amazing place. If any of you has the chance or the opportunity to go by, it is. And you should see the chief's eyes when he talks about this project. It's very emotional for the Lillooet.
Yeah,
right.
no, I can imagine. Yeah, no, sounds great.
Thank you, Conley. Thank you, Ati. All right. Do we have any of the panelists who would be interested in making a motion to give to the board, or give to our, yes, to pass on to the board? Need to come up with some wording, some resolution. Does anybody have anything, or shall I throw something out there and someone can, move to support it? So we could say move to allow the school district 48 to proceed with their non-farm use application to the, I guess, move to support the school district 48 with their application for a non-farm use. I'm getting that vibe from the non-talking panelists out there. Does anyone have anything to add? Oh, sorry, Elliot, go ahead.
Yeah, I would support that project for sure.
Carrie just mentioned the school district is the willing give up per partner is the Lillooet who is requesting the Lillooet Nation. So just for your records, when you make that.
Okay, that's great. Thank you, Ati. So Alex, do you have some sort of resolution there that says that we would like to support the Lillooet Nation's application for non-farm use on those lands?
Yes, thanks, Carrie. I'll read what I have. So I have that the Area C AAC supports the Lillooet Nation, or support Lillooet Nation with their ALC non-farm use application number 64342 for non-farm use. I guess, sorry, I take out the last part. So I'll read that one more time. That the Area C AAC support Lillooet Nation with their ALC non-farm use application, and then the application number.
Perfect. Would someone like to take that on as they're putting it to the board? You just have to put up your hand, and then there we go. Randy, you came and you left. Randy and Elliot will second that. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. It's a very interesting and reconciliation with the big R type of projects. So I'm very proud to be part of it, and I congratulate the board also to being part of this initiative.
All right. Thank you, Ati. I think we have to vote on it. Do we have to vote on it, Alex? Yeah, Kim. Okay, so I guess we just have to record if there are any nays. If there are any nays, please raise your hand. All right, motion is passed. All right, so that will proceed. And I think Ati can leave the meeting now, or he can stay on. Yeah.
No, thank you, thank you. This is great news, and congratulations, or congratulations to us, and thank you for you. Have a wonderful meeting. Bye.
Thank you. All right, are there any other agenda items that anyone would like to add? I have a suggestion. I don't know what any of the other panelists think about this idea, or staff members, but my thought was that maybe instead of having meetings that are ad hoc, perhaps we could have them planned. So there are 4 meetings a year, and they're at a certain date, a certain time, and then applicants can put all of their applications in for those certain times. I don't know if that works for, and like all of the board meetings, the SLRD board meetings are planned ahead of time. I wonder if it would help people. All right, Kim, go ahead.
There we go. I was having a hard time unmuting. Thanks, Carrie. So it sounds like a great idea in theory. However, we get applications on a very, it's a varied kind of basis. So we never know when we're going to get an application. And if we had to wait 3 months before it could be presented to this group, it does significantly delay some of these applicants with their timing. So normally what we want to do is, once an application is to a point where we feel it's ready, then we'll advise this committee and let them know that there is an application. So I mean, it would be nice if we had everybody coming in with applications at the same time, but in reality, it just doesn't really work that way. Applications just flow through, when they flow through. But I still think overall, we probably only have maybe 4 meetings a year. So it probably balances out.
Yeah, I understand that perspective. It's just that all of the panelists are volunteers, and we did just have a meeting like a month ago, and there's nothing saying that we're not going to have a meeting in another month. So I feel like it would be less of a thing for volunteers if it was just 4 times a year, and people who want to change the rules so that they can do what they would like to do, they have to accept that they're dealing with volunteers who are helping them. I don't know. It's just an idea because there's a lot of stuff going on and we're having a hard time getting volunteers for this group. So it was just an idea. Does anyone else have anything that they would like to add as an agenda item? No. All right.
Just as a volunteer, I can say I don't have an issue with random meetings, as it's to bring up to people when the need is there. But yeah, I can see both sides of it, and either way, I'm happy to be here. Cheers.
Thank you, Elliot. All right. I suppose we will move on to the next agenda item. Alex, do we have some next steps for the future?
Thanks, Carrie. So not any next steps that require action by the AAC members, but just to circle back to what Kim said at the start of the meeting, which is that both the ALC application that was discussed at tonight's meeting, and as well the minutes from tonight's meeting, the draft minutes will be going forward to their board, to our board rather, in a couple of weeks at their meeting for consideration. And then I will be able to, whenever the next meeting is scheduled, I'll bring back an update on what happened at the board meeting and how that's moving forward. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Alex. I suppose that I can get someone to move to adjourn the meeting then. Olivia, thank you. And can someone second that? Elliot, thank you. Great. Thank you so much, guys. Have a lovely evening.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Carrie.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Cheers.
Good night.